get you out of this bar, girl, get to switching gears. In my Chevy, there's a Yeti in the back with some beer. We can park in the dark, get our dirt road on. Oh, everybody knows how it goes. Kiss you in the moonlight, glow, sitting shoddy, everybody sing along. Well, this ain't a motherfucking radio song. Well, this ain't a radio song. Yeah! Let's fucking go! This ain't a radio song.
We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Scotty Might Know podcast, episode 6 on a Monday, January 30th, and what a championship weekend that was in the NFL. We're going to get right into it today, but first I want to open up with the fact that we kind of just need to stop talking about the refs. I get it. I understand the frustration. I have seen games where referees decided the outcome. That was not one of them. The Chiefs-Bengals game was not one of them. And so I want to get into a breakdown of the whole game in just a second, but in direct reference to the refs, everyone's kind of up in arms about the 3rd and 9, repeat 3rd and 9 and all this kind of stuff and what happened there. That was an official thing. Like, they whistled, the guy ran out onto the field, we saw the replay, tried to stop the play, no one could hear him, and so they had to do that, and they had to put time back on the clock, they had to fix a couple things. And so I understand the frustration, but that didn't even really affect the game, because yes, they end up getting the first down on the holding call, which, first of all, don't hold the guy, and they get the first down on the defensive holding, but then they end up punting it on that drive anyway, and so I just don't really think it played that much of a factor into the game. And then at the end of the game, the roughing, roughing the passer, but that wouldn't be what roughing the passer is, it's just more like unnecessary roughness, is a call that they make in the NFL now, like it or not, that they've made for years, and he was very out of bounds when that happened. I know from the side, like from the broadcast camera, it looks like it was like he was just getting out of bounds, but there were shots put up 5 minutes after the game ended of the end zone view, and he's completely out of bounds before the guy even touches him. And so if you want to argue the refs rigged it for the Chiefs, well, then you have to look at the fact that they had an interception. The Chiefs had an interception, which would have been Joe Burrow's 3rd interception. Well, at the time, it would have been his 2nd. But it got called back on a PI that was, like, I can see why they called it, obviously, but if they were rigging it for the Chiefs, then they wouldn't have called that. And then later in the game, they have a touchdown called back on a holding call that was very questionable. And so if they're rigging it for the Chiefs, they would have called it. And so it's one of those things where, because those two calls happen towards the end of the game, everyone focuses on those. If those two calls, if the Mahomes roughing, unnecessary roughness play happens early in the game, and they get a field goal off of it, no one talks about that play. If the 3rd and 9 repeat thing happens in the first quarter, no one talks about it. But because it was at the end and everyone was getting focused and every second counted in the fourth quarter, here's the thing. Every second counts in the entire game. Like, the whole game counts. So, yes, those two calls, actually only one of the calls necessarily helped the Chiefs, but it was a valid call. And it was something that I believe that there was 8 seconds left, and Mahomes is good enough and throws the ball quick enough and fast enough that you can get another 8 to 10 yards that you need for the field goal in about 5 to 7 seconds and call a timeout with anywhere from 3 to 1 second left. And if not, we go to overtime and see what happens. So it's not even like the Bengals would have won if they don't call that anyway, but it was a valid call, and I didn't have any problems with it whatsoever. Now, talking about the whole game, my goodness, is Patrick Mahomes amazing. I need to fix a statement that I made in my last episode. I said, I believe that we are heading towards pretty much a repeat of what we just saw in the AFC for years, which was you had Manning and Brady fighting, and then underneath them you had Roethlisberger, Rivers, and Eli Manning fighting. And sometimes they would go up against those other guys, but those were like the two tiers of guys you had. And I said, we're going to have Mahomes and Burrow, and then Herbert, Lawrence, and Allen kind of in that second tier. I'm changing that. It's going to be Mahomes always, and then those other 4 guys are going to be fighting him. That he is incredible. And here's the thing, like, if you want to look at Manning versus Brady, if you want to equate that to now, you really can't, because Manning had all the regular season stats and all the regular season accomplishments, and Brady had more of like the playoff success and the Super Bowl success. Mahomes has both. He's leading everybody in both of them. He's killing it in the regular season and then showing up just as well in the playoffs. And here is the crazy Mahomes stat. He has started and finished 5 seasons, right? His rookie year, he didn't start, he didn't really play. In those 5 years, he is 100% on going to the conference championship. He is 60% on going to the Super Bowl. And then at the very least, he's 10% on winning the Super Bowl. And if he wins this one, he'll be 20% on winning the Super Bowl. And that's in 5 years. This guy, here's the thing. I have to get ready to start to think about Mahomes as the greatest quarterback to ever play. We're not there yet. I'm not saying we're there yet. But the possibility is very much there. He's the greatest quarterback in their first 5 years. So if you took every quarterback's career first 5 years, he's the greatest quarterback ever right now. We will see what happens as we continue down this road. But even just what he did yesterday, Travis Kelce's having his back issues. You have Juju Smith-Schuster, who leaves the game. Was it in the second quarter or the third quarter? I think it was the third quarter. We don't ever see him again. You have Mecole Hardman, who had been out for like 2 months, comes back for this game, gets hurt, out for the game. Kadarius Toney, out. He threw a ball on a third down to get a first down, Mahomes did, to a guy, I think his last name was Kemp. His career stats, and I think like 4 or 5 years in the league, is like 3 catches and like 29 tackles because he's a special teams guy. And he still got it done with those guys. And then you have Snead, the corner, who gets knocked out like on the first or second drive. Now hopefully he's able to come back because he's their best, not defensive player, but he's their best secondary player. Out of any of their corners or safeties, he's their best guy, and so hopefully he can get back for the Super Bowl. But all of these guys are just dropping around Mahomes. Meanwhile, he has the ankle thing going on, and we have to start talking about the ankle game now. Like that's the ankle game. Now Jordan, it's his version of the flu game. Well, Jordan didn't have the flu. He had food poisoning, or he was hungover from the night before, so he didn't have the flu. That came out. If you guys didn't know that, the flu game's not the flu game. He didn't have the flu. So go research it. You'll be highly disappointed. But we have to start talking about the Mahomes ankle game. But he did all of it, carried a bunch of dudes around him that are just injured and dropping like flies. And Pacheco, and it's not like, his running game came through. I think you take Mahomes' rushing yards out. I think they have like 32 or 30, somewhere between like 30 and 35 rushing yards. So it's not like he got like anything from that, and it's not like they were key yards. And everyone's injured, and his own ankle's injured, and he's still 300 plus yards, 2 touchdowns, and just a dude, and just got it done and found a way to get it done once again because he's the best quarterback in the league. On the Bengals side, this is a lesson to us and to the rest of the NFL and to everybody. Don't talk until you've accomplished what you're trying to accomplish, because they just made themselves look like fools, man. Joe Mixon saying, the Bengals are the big dogs of the AFC. First of all, your team mascot's a cat. So, we're the big dogs of the AFC. And Eli Apple, who's like the 5th best corner on their team, talking Burrowhead and the mayor of Cincinnati and da-da-da. And I loved Travis Kelce. His quote for the mayor. I loved the answers that the Chiefs gave back. And it was just beautiful to see. And here's the thing about Cincinnati, they have to have a culture shift, because this whole like talking and arrogant thing and that they've got going on bleeds into how they play. And a lot of the penalties that they were getting were ticky-tacky frustration. Ticky-tacky, that's not what I meant. I meant like, they don't need to happen. They're frustration plays by these players who are angry and just over emotional. And we saw it even after the game as the players are going to the locker room. If you saw that clip that happened where they're going in and one of the defensive players is yelling at the guy that pushed Mahomes when he was out of bounds. And he's like, why would you do that? Why? That's not what you do to your teammate. But that is the culture of their team. They just, they talk, they yell, they get over emotional, they get angry. And that's why they had so many penalties. And I think that's why they ended up losing the game. And if you're the Bengals, if you're Joe Burrow, you can't throw 2 interceptions and expect to win the game. So, like, maybe address that first before you start to go after the refs. The Jamar Chase tweet of, like, 3 3rd and 9s, like, again, they punted later on that drive. That didn't affect the game at all. Stop talking. Stop, like, I'm so there. I like the Bengals and I like Joe Burrow, but the last week and a half has started to make me not like them a lot. I love Joe Burrow, but the rest of that team, man, they just need a culture shift if they're going to continue to be successful. Because here's the problem. They're going to have to start paying Joe Burrow. They're going to have to start paying Jamar Chase. Then you're going to have to make a choice. Do we pay for other positions, or do we also pay for T. Higgins? And they're going to start to have to shovel out some money. And so you need a culture shift to establish a culture of winning, and have to deal with the fact that you're going to have new rookies coming in, like the Chiefs are full of. They had the 3rd most snaps this year played by rookies. And so you're going to have to embrace rookies and all this stuff. And so It's going to be interested to see where they go. Then we had the first game of the day, which was one of the most disappointing NFL games I've ever watched. Period. The Eagles and the 49ers. I thoroughly believe that if Brock Purdy doesn't get hurt, they win that game. Now, you can talk about the fact that they shouldn't have ever tried to block one of the best defensive ends in the league with a tight end and a wide receiver. That leads to that sack that gets him hurt. And I get that. I understand that argument. And yes, they should have challenged what everybody thought was an unbelievable catch. But they didn't, and it ends up leading to a touchdown and whatever. But I don't think Purdy turns the ball over. I know it was at least 2. Was there a third one? I had to stop watching in the middle of that game from like the middle of the second quarter until the fourth. I don't know if there's a third interception in there by Josh Johnson before he himself got injured, but that was just, it was such a you felt all the air leave the 49ers team. It was just a disappointing game of just, I really wish we could have seen what this team could do. And even if they still end up losing the game, but everybody stays healthy, like that would have been even better. And I feel like they would have felt better. And Purdy, here's the rookie quarterback, like could be the first rookie quarterback to take his team, and we don't even get to see it. And it was a bummer. And so for the 49ers, you have to make a choice now. Is it Purdy, is it Trey Lance, or is it somebody else? Like Derek Carr, or I don't think Aaron Rodgers would go there. I don't think they have the money for that. No, they don't. I don't think they can get Aaron Rodgers without shredding a lot of money off of their roster. Maybe Brady. Or they go with Trey Lance or Purdy. And we'll see. The Eagles, though, what made this game so disappointing and so frustrating to watch is that they were making plays on the Niners that were just desperately trying to do crazy things to see if they could score. Because at the time, when Purdy goes out and Josh Johnson comes in, and then Josh Johnson goes out and they're dealing, it's only a 21-7 game. And so they're trying all these trick stuff and all these reverses and wide runs and whatever. And they're making plays. They're putting 10 guys in the box and they're saying, well, you can't pass it, so we know you're going to run it. And then they're making plays and acting like, yeah, see, we got you. Like, of course you do. Of course you do. You knew they couldn't do anything except run the ball. And so you stacked 10 people in the box and you stopped the run. Congratulations. Any NFL team could have beaten the 49ers. Any NFL team yesterday. The Houston Texans, whoever. Because they know, oh, they can't throw the ball anymore. So let's just put our entire defense in the box. Put one guy deep, so that if they do try and run any double reverse passes, he can take care of it. And we're just going to tackle your running back or receiver or your tight end or whoever you're trying to run the ball with. Any team could have beaten that 49ers team yesterday, and they were celebrating like it was a normal game and all these crazy celebrations and yelling in the Niners' faces. And it was so like, you guys... You beat Daniel Jones and the New York Giants, who it was cool the Giants were there, but they had no business being there, and Daniel Jones can barely throw the ball. And then you win against a team that didn't have a quarterback. So if I'm them, I'm real nervous about the Super Bowl and facing an actual quarterback, because it has been a while since they faced a quarterback that posed any threat. Actually, let's take a look at this. I want to take a look at the Philadelphia Eagles' schedule this year. And let's just see, because the NFC is so weak. And I want to see what they did this year. So let's go over to our screen. And here we go. I will zoom this in as always so you guys can see. All right. Week 1, Jared Goff, you guys barely win. Jared Goff, barely win. Now, did the Detroit Lions end up being okay and they have a pretty good offensive year? Sure. It's Jared Goff. Then you beat Kirk Cousins in a primetime game, so that was to be seen. You beat Washington. All right. You beat Jacksonville. But that is kind of in the middle of the, like, weeks 4 through 8 is when Jacksonville went through this weird slump, but you beat them by 8. There you go. It's a good win against a good quarterback. Kyler Murray, you beat him by 3. Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, all right, good divisional win. We'll give, so far Jacksonville and Dallas, 2. Yeah, we'll say Minnesota. No, because you're supposed to beat Kirk Cousins at primetime. Jacksonville and Dallas, 2 solid wins. Pittsburgh, your guess is as good as mine when it comes to who the Pittsburgh quarterback was in that game. In Houston, again, guess as good as mine. Maybe it was Davis Mills. Who knows? Washington, they lose to, at that point, Heineke's the starting quarterback. Indianapolis, maybe Matt Ryan's playing, but even still, Matt Ryan, you win by 1. Rodgers puts up 33 on you, who was having a horrible year all year. You beat Tennessee and Ryan Tannehill. You beat Daniel Jones. Justin Fields by 5, I'll take that, but the Chicago team was horrible, so the fact that you only won by 5 is unbelievable. You lose to Dak. You lose to New Orleans. And then you beat New York in the playoffs. And now you beat whatever happened to the quarterback position yesterday. They have, I would say, impressive wins. They have 2 on the year. You beat Jacksonville and you beat Dallas. Then you lost to Dallas later. I think this is going to be a blowout. That is my official prediction for the Super Bowl. This is going to be a blowout. The Chiefs are going to win by 10 at least, and I would say that they win by 17 or more. I wonder what the line is today. What's the early line? I want to know. Philadelphia is a favorite by 1.5 points. Oh no. No. That's not what's going to happen. They're a favorite by 1.5 points. Stop it. Okay. Fox has it as a 2-point favorite. What is going on? Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. I think this is going to be a Chiefs blowout for sure. All right. Those are the game overviews. Real quick before we go to our break, 2 things in Chargers land. One, Justin Herbert gets labrum surgery. Now, it's his left shoulder, not his right shoulder, but all of a sudden, his kind of inaccuracy and lackluster play in the Jacksonville game all of a sudden makes sense. But he's going to be all cleared for all the offseason stuff. But that was a very interesting development, and I think is going to affect how I rank quarterbacks here in the third block of today's episode. And then the Chargers hired Kellen Moore for the offensive coordinator from the Cowboys. That is a huge win. I am so excited to watch Kellen Moore operate with Justin Herbert, a good quarterback. Because what Dallas was averaging 29 points over the last 2 or 3 years they've had Kellen Moore, and he's been operating with Dak Prescott. And so now you give him Justin Herbert, and I cannot wait to see what he does with the Chargers. All right, that is the take from NFL Weekend. We're going to talk a little bit of basketball, and then we will do the quarterback rankings in the third block. We will be right back. Thank you very much. This is Scotty Might Know Podcast. We will see you in just a second. Okay, let's get back to it. Speaking of, we need to stop talking about the refs. Over the NBA weekend, you had that Lakers-Celtics game. And at the very end of it, LeBron goes to lay it up and does get fouled. He gets fouled. Oh, excuse me, hold on. There we go. He got fouled. And I get the frustration. But here's the thing, Lakers fans, and again, I think LeBron's the best player to ever do it. Go watch the tape. He travels on the way to the basket. So if you want them to review the whole play, then it's a travel and it's a turnover. So I get the frustration of the foul because that's what everybody sees, but when you actually review that tape, LeBron traveled. And so it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, like refs are doing this and that, and it's the refs. How about you just make more shots and stop the other team from making shots earlier in the game? Do something different in the first quarter. Do something different in the second quarter. Again, the entire game matters. And the entire game is just as important no matter when it's happening. So it's something that I thought was kind of funny to see alongside the Chiefs-Bengals game. Of like, it's the refs. It's like, it's not really it's not. Just don't travel and play better while the entire game is going on. All right. So, quarterback rankings. It's officially time. Now, let's see if I can get this correct. Oh, wait, no. This. Wait for a second. Double me. That's awesome. I go here. Properties. I want. Oh. Yeah. Boom. Alright. Now we gotta make sure that it fits. So we're probably gonna have to zoom out. Actually, I think I'm just going to do the regular screen on this. We're going to do here. All right. Yeah, we'll go here. So I'm going to do quarterback rankings. And I've kind of tiered them as well. These guys down here have played at different parts of the season, but they're not going to be starters next year. So we're going to go through the people who are. Josh Allen will put you in the 5 through 10 bucket. I'm going to put people in the buckets first, and then we will see kind of what happens after. If they're a backup or they're going to be a backup next year, then I'm not really going to put them on the list. Oh, Jordan Love's interesting. We're going to keep you there for a second. Zach Wilson, you're not going to start anywhere. Mac Jones is here. Mar, Purdy, Garoppolo. We'll go there. Okay. Again, I'm just going to put them in the buckets that I think they go in. And then after that is we will go in and actually order them. Wait, is that Geno? Is that... That's Geno Smith? Huh. Alright. Oh no, there's Geno Smith. I was going to say, that doesn't look like Geno Smith to me. Jordan Love's an interesting one. And I don't know if Mariota's going to be starting next year. Matt Ryan. You got Joe Burrow. Stafford. Winston. Dalton's not going to start next year. Does Carson start next year? Maybe. Heineke won't. I don't. Maybe Darnold would. Then we got Dak. Oh, I've been putting him in the wrong. Because this row start. Oh, okay, whatever. Daniel Jones, Jalen Hurts. Okay. Let's start at the bottom. Sam Darnold, Carson Wentz, Mariota, Davis Mills. I'm just see, is Daniel Jones, would I have Daniel Jones or the other guy? I would rather have Daniel Jones. I'd rather have Daniel Jones. I'll move you down here. Trey Lance is going to be an interesting thing to see what the Niners do with him, but I would rather have Daniel Jones. Now, I would not rather have Daniel Jones than Murray, but I would have you over Garoppolo. I would take you over Purdy right now, and I would take you over Mac Jones. All right. Okay. Okay, so Mahomes is obviously number one. And if you argue that, then I really don't know what to tell you, because it just means that you really kind of don't truly understand football. This next bucket, this 2, 3, 4 bucket, I'm going to say it goes right now. It's Burrow, Allen, Lawrence. I used to have Lawrence above Burrow until I found out about the labrum thing, and that he would Justin Herbert was playing with a torn labrum in his left shoulder at the end of the year. So now I'm putting Herbert above him, and I think now with Kellen Moore that he's going to have a much better season than Trevor's going to have next year. And he's had a better season. He had a better season this year, and he had a better season last year. Regular season. And then they met in the playoffs, and the coaching staff let Herbert down. Lamar and Jalen, I would say, are your next two. So maybe, you know what? I think I might change this. Add row below. This is going to be 5 and 6. And I see the argument both ways. But for me, actually, here's the thing. Jalen Hurts has a Super Bowl appearance, but Lamar has an MVP. But Lamar always gets hurt. So who would I rather have? I would rather have Jalen Hurts. Right now. If you told me I get one of the two, I will take Jalen Hurts. He's taken his team to the Super Bowl. Now, Lamar does have an MVP, but he hasn't been healthy in the playoffs for the last 2 years. And it just keeps letting his team down. And I think he's a problem. So now, this is no longer 5. This is now 7 through 10. So Dak, this is too high for Dak. This is an interesting one because I think Allen's gets to be at 7. And then we have to talk about who's next to round out the top 10. That's what's hard about the NFL quarterbacks right now is you have this top amazing tier of talent of 1 through 7. And then you have, you know what, because of this, I'm going to change this. This is going to be 8, 9, and 10. And we're going to make this 5 and 7. Because these top 3 rows are like it right now. And there's only one guy in the NFC. So Dak makes a running for it. Rodgers makes a running for it. And honestly, with the season Goff had, he makes a running for it. I need to look at to see what happens down here. Justin Fields, I think, is going to end up being pretty good next year. Matthew Stafford can't be worse than he was this year. I don't even think Tua might not even start. I'm going to upgrade Kyler Murray because I would rather have Kyler Murray than both of these guys. Going into next year, would you rather have Brady or would you rather have Stafford? I think if I was the Rams, I would rather have Brady. Would you rather have Tua or Stafford? I would rather have Stafford. And I would rather have Tua over Cousins and Cousins over Winston. So I want to make sure I have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So we need to add 3 more to this next. So it's Carr. I would rather have Carr over all these guys. Then I'll put Daniel Jones. I'll put Daniel Jones over those 3. And then I don't know. Maybe it's Tannehill. Maybe it's Mac Jones. Mac Jones has a Pro Bowl. So 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Because here's the thing is Jameis can still put up numbers. I don't know if he's even going to start next year for the Saints. Because in all reality, because then this is this right number-wise? 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. This is correct number-wise. This is 32 guys. But the Texans are going to go get, what's his name? Why am I blanking on his name now? Bryce Young. And so that's going to... I'm going to add another row. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. Add a row below so I can see this a little bit better. There we go. The Bears won't get a quarterback. What's the draft order? NFL draft order. Chicago, Houston, Arizona's not getting a quarterback. Indianapolis probably will. Denver won't. Rams won't. Then you have Atlanta. So I could see Atlanta and Indianapolis possibly picking up quarterbacks, which means Matt Ryan probably becomes a perennial backup. And who did we just say? The Falcons. So Mariota goes back to being a backup. So now this is 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. So, and then the Commanders, what are they? They're drafting 16th. I could see Wentz not being a starter and Darnold not being a starter. Deshaun Watson, the Browns are stuck with him. Tannehill, they need to move on from Tannehill. And then out of these guys, Jimmy G, I think, is going to go somewhere and start. And I think Purdy's going to become a backup. So now we're down to 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So those are your guys that I think, these 26 quarterbacks I think are going to start in the NFL next year. And then you're going to have 6 teams pick up rookies or start one of these guys. Like, I could see, okay, maybe they take Trey Lance and trade him somewhere for pieces to surround Purdy with. Maybe. Maybe Heineke is the one that starts for the Commanders. Maybe Mariota. So I think these 26 are for sure starters next year and on different teams. And so this is my final ranking for the end of this year. I really don't care what happens in the Super Bowl. Maybe you get this. You just move him up to the next tier of like the second best group of guys. But Mahomes is 1. Burrow, Herbert, and Lawrence are 2, 3, and 4. Hurts, Jackson, Allen are 5, 6, and 7. Dak, Rodgers, and Goff. I'd rather have Goff over Rodgers after what I just saw from this year. Actually, I would rather have Goff over Prescott, what I saw this year. Are 8, 9, and 10. Then you have this next field of guys that it's like, hey, not horrible, but they put us in good positions. Then this next field where it's like, we probably need someone else. And then if you're starting any of these guys down here, we'll see what happens with Jordan Love. But if you're starting any of these other guys outside of Love and Purdy, we'll put them up here. These guys are like, if you're starting them, I guess we'll see what happens. We'll put Trey Lance in that one. We'll call this the question mark ones, and then we'll call this backup. So if you're starting one of these 3, we'll see what happens. And if you're starting one of these guys, God bless your team. And I hope everyone else stays healthy for the rest of the year. All right. That is where I'm going to end it for today's episode. Thank you guys for coming by. That was episode 6. I'm excited to see what's going to happen through this week. Thursday, I'm going to have to come up with a couple of things. I have a couple ideas, but we'll see. Just because there's no NFL games, and maybe we'll focus a little more on the NBA. So that is that for today's episode. We will see you guys on Thursday for episode 7. Have a wonderful week. If you're in San Diego, drive safe and stay dry. And we will see you guys next time. Thanks for coming by the podcast. Peace.